Hi all, Jin here, with my hands down favorite purple of the month, which has been quite the heavy purple month for me. The only person I feel whose love for lightning is greater than mine would be Soul DFFOO. Otherwise, I was so hyped for her. She was purple the minute I could, before I even started pooling for hope. Speaking of which, if you haven't seen my pool battle with Mayu Fantasy, I will link that down below. And as usual, timestamps for this video will be in the pinned comments for easy navigation, where I go over Lightning and Hope's kits, what I think about them, and my recommendations, and how to play them. But first off, let's not overlook their third banner mate, Shadow, who comes with his rework and level 70. Spoilers, I did not pull his EX, but I can quickly go over his EX and EX Plus, and what I think about him in general. His EX Shadow Fang basically gives him his Doggo Interceptor for 6 turns, which increases his max Brave by 40%, reduces Brave damage taken by 50%, and grants him his follow-up attack called Wild Fang whenever he evades an attack or uses a skill or his EX. Wild Fang is a 4 Brave hit HP attack, and at 0-3 his EX ability, Shadow Fang, hits harder, gets more overflow, and splash. At 1-3 he gets attack 50% up and max Brave 40% up, with 6 turns of his EX buff, meaning you get his follow-up attack right away pretty much. At 2-3 Wild Fang ignores defense, and he gets to start with the rest of his buffs. At 3-3 he gets his HP plus, his EX has more hits and hits harder with more overflow. So Shadow being primarily a DPS, you do want to 3-3 him for his HP plus and just hitting harder in general. His Doggo attack being able to ignore defense from 2-3 isn't something to be overlooked either. You can definitely get lots of extra damage on beefy enemies if all his follow-up attacks are ignoring defense each time. Shadow is one of the many evasion units we've been getting lately, with the likes of 8, Edge, and Galoof. Shadow's evasion from his skill 1 is only 70% total when including summon passives, so it's similar to Galoof's evasion for magic attacks. It's good but not guaranteed. Shadow can counter both magic and physical though, but he has no way of covering his allies or taunting the boss or enemies, so he does rely on RNG to be targeted similar to 8. But remember, his evasion is only 70%, so even if you get RNG to target him, you might not be able to evade it, and you also need his EX buff up to trigger the counter. He definitely hits harder than all of the aforementioned evasion units, but he doesn't bring anything else to the party in terms of auras or buffs. In short, he's a great DPS unit with evasion utility, but he needs to be targeted and needs to be 3-3'd, and is widely considered to be the weakest of the 3 on this banner, just merely due to not bringing much else. It doesn't mean he isn't a damn good unit though, that just means the banner is just insanely good. Alright, on to Hope, whose EX I did pull. He also comes with a level 70 and a rework like Shadow. His rework is of gigantic proportions due to how bad he was prior. Think of Pinello treatment. So I won't be going into detail about his rework, but rather just cover what his base kit does now. His skill 1, Shell, batteries the party 150% of his attack, grants a generic 50% attack up buff to himself, and the party a unique buff of 60% magic damage reduction. Skill 1 doesn't take up a turn count and is instant turn rate, as long as you have all his speed passives on, including his quick shell, and that he's not inflicted with speed down. If you remove any of those, then it actually won't be instant turn rate. His skill 2, Protect, also batteries the party 150% of his attack, granting the party 35% generic speed buff, and a unique buff of 60% physical damage reduction. His skill 2 is just high turn rate, so it's a little bit lower than his skill 1, but it doesn't take up a turn count either, so similar to Pinello as well. His EX ability, Last Resort, is a 4 AoE Brave hit with 100% AoE EX, and batteries his allies 10% damage dealt, while also healing the party 50% of HP damage dealt with a 20% max HP limit. For his level 70s, his C68 slightly raises the party's max HP and attack. His C65 and C70 batteries the party by 20% of his max Brave while reducing HP damage taken by 20% for 3 turns. His Bloom increases the total of this HP damage reduction to 40% while granting another use. I recommend getting the Bloom for the extra use, and along with doubling the HP damage reduction amount, which can be very handy to survive some dicey situations, since Hope is not a consistent healer. Going over his unique icon, which is the dagger that hangs above him, called Entrusted Hope, the number of stacks is dependent on the total number of party-wide buffs. 1 to 3 buffs gives him 1 stack, which grants him 20% attack and 10% overflow. 4 to 6 total buffs is 2 stacks, 7 to 9 is 3 stacks, 10 to 12 is 4 stacks, 13 to 15 is 5 stacks, which is the max. Each additional stack grants him 10% more attack and 5% more overflow, so at 5 stacks he has a total of 60% attack and 30% overflow. I'm going to ignore going over his base HP Plus and Brave Plus abilities because you should never be using those, since segue into his EX Plus. At 0-3, it unlocks his Brave Plus Plus, or Brutal Sanction, which is a 4 AoE Brave that batteries the party by 70% of attack. And this also unlocks his HP Plus Plus at 0-3, or Retributive Blast, which is a 4 Brave HP attack with 120% overflow and 20% splash. It also inflicts a 40% defense down debuff when breaking or hitting a broken target. And so the only requirements for these to stay unlocked is if Hope has at least one stack of his Dagger, meaning have one buff on anyone in the party and he'll have his Brave++ and HP++ at 0-3. So you should never ever be using his normal HP+ and Brave+ abilities. At 1-3 he grants the party attack and max Brave up 20%. So essentially it's an aura to the party. At 2-3 everyone in the party gets to start off with all of the buffs Hope provides, so there's no need to set up at the beginning anymore. At 3-3 his EX ability increases from 4 to 8 Brave hits and gets 120% overflow and hits much harder. And keep in mind that this is 100% AoE EX, so the overflow and extra Brave hits does make a big difference. So how much should you invest in Hope? Well, you must at least book him for his Brave++ and HP++, which is what makes up most of his damage, so he works quite well at 0-3 already. And if you don't like Hope and happen to just have his EX from pulling on this banner, just give him a book and he'll still help greatly at 0-3 and give you an ingot in return. 1-3 is where I personally have him right now and would recommend that you keep him if you're short on ingots, but still like to use Hope. 1-3 is for the 20% attack and max Brave party aura, which we all know party auras are the best, and this is for 2 of the most important stats in the game. Think of it this way, some of us grind forever to get good 6-star C50 passives for party auras, and these are the best ones, and at best you can get 50% attack through 6-star C50 passives. And generally with those units you see a substantial difference between having 6-star C50s and having none for those arts. And his 1-3 gives the party even more than that at 20%. So it does make quite a big difference, the party aura at 1-3. So give him the ingot and you don't need to grind any arts either in that sense. 2-3 is the least recommended investment, meaning I would not recommend 2-3 at all. It essentially saves him a use of each skill while allowing him to start off right away with an HP++ attack. But he lives off his HP++, so him running out of skills isn't exactly a worry, and you're not really saving much turns by being able to start off right away anyways, because neither of his skills wastes turn count. 3-3 is if you want Hope to bring the damage as well. Having a 100% AoE EX hit harder with more overflow is nothing to look down upon, so 3-3 Hope is not a bad idea if you have the ingots for it. But just a word of caution, even though his EX is fast, it isn't up as fast as you would think if you're just mainly HP plussing. It's not slow, but it's not as fast as you would like, because generally HP plus doesn't charge EXs very fast. But also 3-3ing him gives a great sphere, which is party attack and max Brave up 5% after granting a buff. Great for him or anyone who grants buffs with both abilities and has a D slot. I'm tempted to 3-3 Hope for this sphere actually. Hope has an odd combo of sphere slots. His other ones are B and C. For the C slot, you could consider a healing sphere like Porum or Rosa's to supplement his lack of healing outside of his EX. This is assuming you want to try to use him in more situations, but keep in mind the healing is very minimal. I have it on my Sarah, which I like, because it does sometimes help, like when you're running with a tank and certain stray HP damage is dealt to your other units, then that sphere is enough to heal it. But then again, Hope's EX is probably enough to heal those situations too, so it's up to you. That's why personally I would like something like similar to Alphanod's sphere, which raises party attack and eye brave by 5% after granting a buff. Other kind of C spheres are better suited for other supports, so B sphere for him is weird also. They're usually better for other characters, but you could consider walls that lowers brave damage taken by 10%, so you're just taking even less brave damage because he already has brave damage reduction already. Or Kimari's that lowers HP damage taken by 10%, which will help supplement his low healing. Or you can double down with Gabrant's, which reduces party brave damage taken by 10%, so using his utility and just increasing it further with the B sphere like that will make enemies hit for much less. For arts, you're going to want 108-330, with 108s being priority, since all of his battery scales off attack. And while of course he also wants to do more damage too, 330 is naturally second for his 100% AoE EX and holding in all his battery from his skills. Everything else is more or less pretty garbage for him, but if you're stuck with not getting good attack and max brave combos, definitely go for the attack first, and then try to lean towards raw stats like HP or int brave as secondaries rather than his other skilled arts, which are very, very garbage. So how to play Hope? Well, if you're familiar with Penelo, he works in a similar vein, but he doesn't have stances, so it actually makes him even simpler. Especially if you at least 2-3'd him, you don't even need to start off with a skill, just go right into your HP++. If you have him less than 2-3 like I do, the fastest way to start him off is use skill 1, gives you instant turn rate, then use skill 2, and then boom, you're all set up with all buffs and at least 4 stacks of his Dagger, and then go into his HP++. If it's trash waves or a long fight, you could spread out his skill use, mixing in an HP++ in between the skills. Also similar to Penelo, if you're in a bind and you need his EX up, you can just use skill 1 to charge it ASAP. You shouldn't be running out of his skills too quickly since he mainly relies on his HP++, but do try to keep in mind that each time you use his skills, it does extend buffs once, so try not to spam his abilities if the buff you already extended hasn't run out yet, so you can save the next ability to extend that buff. So we're talking like running with Vayne. For example, if you extended his free turn buff, don't use an ability until after Vayne gets his next free turn buff, pretty much. So that all of his abilities can be used to extend Vayne every time. That way you're making the most use of his abilities. And so we can just go right into his pros, which as mentioned, he can extend any buff once when he grants a buff, similar to Yuna, Aiko, and Saz. So it's great for Vayne, like mentioned, 8, Edge, etc. All those powerful short buff units. Hope also has pretty good World of Illusion weapon, which many units don't have, so definitely worth the 10 weapon tokens and 8 power stones to MLB and sell. That's actually the weapon skin I'm using. It gives him extra 20% max brave and 10% attack. This is also the reason I have his armor purple to fit all his passives. He is also a proper support with great auras for the party, especially if you 1-3'd him with 70% attack and 60% max brave, 35% speed, and 10% HP while lowering brave damage by 60%. His 40% defense down debuff I find very random for him to have, but it's great since it can always be applied, assuming the enemy isn't immune of course. And this is applied with his HP++ that splashes as well. His EX is a fast 100% AoE that heals, so he could be the only support you need on your team. And neither of his skills take up turn count, and skill 1 is instant turn rate to instantly charge his EX in a pinch, similar to Penelo. But for his cons, that heal from his EX is all he has, so if you're taking constant HP damage and he is the only support on your team, you might be in for a beating. But he does have brave damage reduction, and that C65 does lessen the HP damage when in a pinch. He does take up a lot of buff slots, but his dagger stacks rely on party buff count, so you're stuck wanting to make sure the party has enough buffs for 5 stacks, while not giving too many buffs that everyone is pushing off each other. Plus 2 of Hope's buffs are unique, with one or the other maybe not doing much of anything for some fights. If it's magic heavy, his protect buff is useless, and vice versa for his shell buff for physical heavy fights. Also similar to Beatrix, if you run into fights that are dispel or debuff heavy, his potential is lowered every time his stacks get lower. Final thoughts on Hope? Well, if me pulling gems and going over fully a unit I wasn't even planning to 3-3 is any indication, let me just say it outright, he's a great unit. Partially it's because I missed out on Aiko, and he has that beautiful buff extension passive, but he's also a lot better than Aiko. He can deal great damage for support, especially if you 3-3 him, has great auras, utility, and longevity, while covering all the roles you essentially need, allowing you to fill out the rest of the team quite easily, all the while doing most of what you need at a cheap investment of 1-3, and just 3-3ing him unlocks his damage potential and a great sphere as well. It also helps he's on a fantastic banner if you don't have either of the other two. And speaking of the other two, finally we have arrived to the goddess herself, Lightning, who comes with her level 70 and EX+. If you're familiar with how Lightning already worked, her EX+ just adds another extra layer that makes her just that much more awesome. She's been around for a while now, so I'll just try to cover briefly the important parts of her base kit. Her skill 1, Spark Strike, is a 3 brave hit HP attack with 110% overflow that will grant her 1 stack of the unique buff Ravager that grants 40% max brave and 10% speed, while removing her unique buff from skill 2. Also gives her a generic attack buff of 40%. She gets Brave Refund of 10% HP damage dealt, and while in Ravager stance, both her Brave Plus and HP Plus can add an additional stack of Ravager as well. Once at 2 stacks of Ravager, her skill 2 gains its plus version. Her skill 2, Flourish of Steel, is a 3 brave hit HP attack with 120% overflow that will grant her 1 stack of the unique buff Commando. That grants 30% attack and 40% max brave, while removing her unique buff from skill 1 and a generic brave regen buff of 80% eye brave. While in Commando stance, both her Brave Plus and HP Plus can add an additional stack of Commando, and once at 2 stacks of Commando, her skill 1 Spark Strike gains its plus version. Spark Strike Plus gets increased overflow to 120%, while Brave Refund is 30% HP damage dealt. Flourish of Steel Plus gets increased overflow to 150%. Her EX ability, Army of 1, dumps HP 3 times, and heals her by HP damage dealt, or 10% max HP. Any excess is converted to Brave. It will also give her a free ability after use, as well as delay the target by 1 turn and grant her the unique buff Knight of Etro, which enchants her with the lightning element, 20% attack up, max brave 40% up, and gives a free turn when a target is broken on a non-free turn. And while in Ravager stance, her EX ability becomes its plus version, which delays by 2 instead of 1 turn. Lightning's C68 slightly raises her int brave and attack. Her C65 and C70 is a 2 brave hit ability that cancels a target's break status after, while granting attack up 10% for 3 turns. The bloom gets 2 additional uses, and it's definitely a must get for her. Now onto her awesome EX+. At 03, her EX ability hits harder, gets 150% overflow, and imperils Lightning for 4 turns after her first HP attack. She also gets a Brave refund of 20% HP damage dealt after the first 2 HP dumps. At 1-3, she gets an increase in attack and max Brave by 30%, and all her buffs are extended by 1 turn after using her EX. At 2-3, she gets to start with her EX buff, EX gauge is 80% charged, and her first ability is free, instant, and no turn count. Beautiful. At 3-3, she gets her HP++, and her EX ability hits harder, with more hits in between each HP dump, and has the ability to now re-break the enemy. Her HP++ in Commando is a Brave gain of 70% attack with 2 Brave hits and 120% overflow. Her HP++ in Ravager is a Brave gain of 120% attack with 1 Brave hit and 120% overflow as well. So honestly, she's 1000% a 3-3 unit. I don't recommend anything else. Each ingot gives her so much, especially 3-3, that she's just lacking so much when you leave her short of 3-3. Just 3-3 her and you won't regret it. My how to play on her will only cover a 3-3 lightning since she's got so much stuff going on with her. I wouldn't be able to explain different scenarios for non-3-3 lightnings. I don't even want to think about someone running around with like a 1-3 lightning or something. Her sphere is amazing for her, both attack and eye brave plus 10% after breaking a target 5 times. I put it on her myself. Anything else that increases her attack is ideal for her other slots. Giving her Hope Sphere would be actually great for her D slot since it increases attack and max brave by 5% to the party when granting a buff, and everything she does essentially grants her a buff, so that's another reason I want a 3-3 Hope possibly in the future. As for her arts, attack is 100% priority, max brave being secondary, and her eye brave being a close third. Eye brave is great for her regen and solo runs, but max brave is overall better and future proof. My lightning is almost there, it just needs that last 108-330, which I'm hopefully getting during these Cosmos co-ops. So, how to play lightning? Oh boy. Let me try to make it as simple as possible. Again, let me reiterate, this is for 3-3 lightnings only. Some of these aspects can be applied to lesser lightnings, but not everything. First off, when she starts, she will get a free ability with no turn count, so use her skill 1 to get her in Ravager stance. This will immediately charge her EX and give it the plus version. Lightning will often go first, but if she doesn't, and there is already a broken target, you could use your first skill 1 on that enemy, since you're given an immediate turn regardless. And so on your next turn, you can break another target with her HP++ for a free turn, or re-break the broken enemy with her EX and get a free turn from that as well. So this will essentially give her 3 turns like right off the bat and only consume 1 turn. But that's assuming she doesn't go first. If it's a trash wave, you can save the EX if you wish and use her HP++. In general, similar to Vayne, try to use her re-breaks on already broken enemies if you can, otherwise it's wasted on targets who can be broken by something else. All her skills have high turn rate when breaking or attacking a broken target, so keep in mind she may jump turns often and it's hard to predict. So after your first EX use, you're given a free ability. I generally go into her skill 2 to get her remaining buffs. So at this point, Lightning has used her EX, and both abilities, has all her buffs, has possibly gone multiple times, yet she still has all of her ability uses, which is amazing. Once in Commando stance, if playing aggressively, you can use skill 2 again. This will grant you the second stack of Commando. Then you can use your skill 1 at its plus version, and then the second EX charge should be up at its plus version by now. From here, it's really improvisation, and you just have to understand the nuances of Lightning. It's hard for me to explain exactly what you should do in every situation, but I will try to outline the main points you need to keep in mind that I haven't covered already. Number 1, leave her as many breaks as possible unless her EX is charged. Then of course her EX can re-break. Number 2, try to stay in each of her stances at least until you get up to 2 stacks before switching to the next stance, so you can use abilities at their plus versions on the switch. I used to check the buff name, but I realized it's just easier to see her HP plus names. If it says Ravager, you're in skill 1 stance. Number 3, Commando is the stronger stance to stay in, but Ravager stance is the one you want to be in once your EX is up, so try to plan for it, although it's not always possible. But this is why I like to have my EX charge always showing rather than on the second page. You can't plan, or you're otherwise always scrolling to the second page. This goes for all characters, honestly. Just keep in mind where your EX charge is at, and if you need to use an ability or an HP plus to charge the EX. And also keep in mind her HP plus abilities on free turns, similar to Vayne, will not charge her EX. Number 4, if you're at 2 stacks in Ravager stance and the EX is almost up, just stay in that stance and charge your EX for the 2 turn delay. Number 5, if you're in Commando and the EX is up and there is someone to break, then go ahead and break them with skill 1, get your free turn, and then use the EX at its plus version. If not, just use your EX in Commando stance and you will still get a 1 turn delay and the re-break for a free turn anyways. Her EX actually hits harder in Commando stance with the extra attack from that stance so it's not the worst thing in the world where you lose 1 turn delay. It's better to keep her constantly dealing out damage rather than waste a turn to get back into Ravager stance to use your EX. Number 6, use her C65 to get her immediate free turns if need. And what you can actually do is break an enemy, get a free turn, use her C65, then break them for another free turn. Just make sure your EX buff isn't falling off for those shenanigans, since that's what gives you the free turns. I think that about sums it all up as simply as I can while not leaving anything out. It should be much easier for those already used to Lightning's kit prior to her EX+. And while complicated, if you do make mistakes, she's strong enough for it not to be a big deal. But that leads me to her cons. She is kind of complicated to play. There's a lot of stuff going on with her, so she has a really high ceiling for advanced play. So that's why I love her, but is still a great character when played simply as well. But we're not onto her pros yet, so still more cons. She is even more of the turn-stealing speed machine she always has been. It's much better now because she's so much stronger, so each turn isn't as wasteful as before. But she can burn through the buffs she isn't granting herself, as other people similar to her do, like Vayne. Her entire kit is single target, and she can only apply her short lightning imperil to 1 enemy at a time. But her free turns do help her to control crowds if needed, as long as she's not required to have the imperil on multiple enemies at a time. So this potentially locks her out of physical resist fights, and she's definitely locked out of lightning absorb fights. Her 2 stances can be a bit awkward too. Her commando stance is stronger, yet her Ravager stance gives her EX the 2 turn delay, so balancing the 2 can be a bit annoying. Alright, onto her pros. She deals massive damage and has bunches and bunches of delays, free turns, and free abilities, gives you great turn counts and longevity. At her full potential, she starts off by taking advantage of all 3 of those, free ability, free turn, into EX, and her EX is loaded, it heals her, it imperils, and enchants herself. It potentially delays 3 turns with a rebreak and 2 turn delay, free ability after, with the possibility of a free turn after, if it wasn't already a free turn, and it just hits so effing hard now, especially since it's now hitting weakness on non-lightning absorb enemies. I pretty much just summed it all up into a long monologue of great pros. So, my final thoughts on Lightning. If you're able to master her nuances, you can deal out so much damage with minimal turn count, while delaying single target enemies to infinity. This is also one reason she can solo some Dimension End tiers like tier 4. She's another delayer you can add to the list of broken delayers like Vayne, Aranea, and Leo. I have all 4 and I don't care, they're just, I don't exactly need them, but we're talking about if you want strong units, she's a strong unit. And she's fun to play, since I do find the fun in more complex kits. Outside of being super waifu. But she's still strong, where as long as you have the basics, she'll still serve you wonders. So hopefully my How to Play can serve for you to absorb her kit further and embrace the greatness that is this goddess. Alright, so let's just finally take her and hope out for a spin on this Awakening Chaos and try to put all of this into action. Sorry, there's no Shadow Showcase, of course. I was going to bring Selfie because she's my favorite support right now, and she would still leave breaks for Lightning. But I figure if I'm going to showcase Lightning in all her glory, might as well bring some turn manipulation into the fold with Rem. Rem is a great, underrated unit who will serve Lightning the same way she serves King. Just give those breaks on a silver platter. Oh wait, I think the enemy absorbs ice. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's right. Gotta check their resistances. So we can't be taking a Shiva, but we can take, let's take Brothers. Brothers should be fine. Brothers with Rem, tons of battery. Let's go. Oh, Soul. We can take double Lightning. Why not? Why not? Why not? Okay. Double waifu. Alright, so it's only a single target, so just gotta get the free turn here. Going to the EX. This will be 3 turn delay. And we're just going to give her attack first. And we'll start with S1, going to S2. That's just the fastest way to start. Now he has 5 stacks. And now we'll go to the skill 2, get all my buffs up. And she gets to go again, look at that. And we get a free turn here. This is the power of lightning. And we'll go into our Spark Strike Plus, and our EX should be ready after that. And let's just go ahead and use our EX. 3 turn delay again. And a free turn. This is kind of unfair. So I'm already in Ravager. Let's go ahead and get second stack up. And we'll just go ahead and spam his HP plus. That nice defense down. And we'll get Hope his buffs as well. And this should get my EX up. And we'll use our plus version. I guess it doesn't really matter if you're not capping. Ooh, I want to give lightning that break though, so let's just go into HP plus. And we can just go ahead and commando this. A free turn. And we can go ahead into our Spark Strike Plus. Hopefully our EX is up after this. Yep, it is. Hope's EX. It's pretty minimal damage if there's only one enemy. And he's not 3-3 either. Now the question will be if this guy ever gets a turn. That's the real question. Alright, so I'm on Ravager. Let's just go ahead and get our second stack. And we'll use our EX now. And we'll use our plus version here. And she goes again. And we'll just go ahead and get our second stack. And we'll go ahead and extend Rem's buff. I'll use Protect. And now she has 2 free abilities. Isn't that nice? Let's just go ahead and bring Lightning up to the forefront again. Look at that free turn. And into EX. Things get any better. Nope, he ain't acting. This guy is not gonna get to act. Ooh, a nice launch too. Goodbye. That was unfair. Unfair. I apologize. Alright, now this wave can probably be a little annoying. So I'm at 1 stack of Ravager. Let's go ahead and get our second stack. And let's go ahead and we're gonna leave ourselves our breaks, those breaks, because Rem can bring lightning back to the front, like so. Let's go ahead and get our free turn here. And we'll just go ahead and stay in commando. I don't want to use that ability on Ramza there. And let's go ahead and shell. Get my EX up. There's that beautiful AoE EX. And we got another AoE EX coming. Now this lady is going to want to bring back her subjects. So I'm going to want to switch to Spark Strike. Yep. But let's go ahead and unbreak her first. Now we'll use our free turn into EX. 3-turn delay. It's like poetry. Lightning can make poetry. Also her EX, the way she dances, is poetry in motion too. So we can extend Rem's free buff again. Now she has 2 free abilities. She has way too many abilities nowadays. Let's go ahead and... We haven't buffed Hope in a while, I'm assuming. We'll let Hope come up. Hey, 84k, I'll take that. And we got another free ability here. Let's go ahead and bring Lightning to the front. Free ability, I'm in Ravager. And we're gonna leave that for Lightning. We use our plus version here. Free turn. We will HP plus, get our second stack. I'm gonna EX with Hope here. So, I will just call back Lightning. Cure buff's gonna run off, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and reset her break again. Free turn, get into Ravager. And 3-turn delay. It's just poetry, I'm telling you. Lightning just feels so good to play. This lady won't get a turn. And let's just start battering us a bit. I think Hope's gonna have too many abilities at the end of this. Actually, I mean, so will Rem. Lightning's the one doing all the work. Let's go ahead and get our second stack here. Let's go ahead and cure buff. I'm not sure if Hope can kill her. Not sure. I'm not gonna risk it. Let's bring back Lightning. Get that free turn. Yep. I can spam abilities. I still got my friend Lightning if I need. Alright. Now we can get our cure buff back up. Let's go ahead and just battery Lightning. Beautiful. Let's just use his 65. Make sure I cap. I don't know when any other time they're gonna do HP attack. They're probably not gonna be able to do much at all. So we will get 2 turns in a row. So we can go ahead and go into Ravager. We'll get a free turn here. 3-turn delay. So let's go ahead and use this free one. That's the thing, obviously, you can use free abilities on C65s. We will get our second stack here and a free turn. And we can go into our plus ability. Yeah. Ooh, get to go again. Alright. Time to summon. Hope you're gonna have too many abilities. There was no need to extend her free turns because she just has way too many turns anyways. That's battery lightning. And we'll get our free turn here. I don't really want a free turn though. Now we'll battery everybody. And EX. So, it's just HP plus. And we got a free turn here. We can go into Ravager, get our EX up. Goodbye. We really don't need you, Hope. We're just going to bring out all the guns. All the guns. Hello. Free turns galore, my god. My god. The only reason I'm kind of killing them together is because Rem and Hope's AoE EXs, but Lightning does prefer single targets more. I'm going to go ahead and do this again. This is why she's broken, people. This is why she's broken. I will save those. Let's just go ahead. Another HP plus. And let's do this. Ooh, that was weak. That was weak, Rem. Alright, free turns. Here we come. So he's about to come out of break. I won't jump turns though. It's okay. It's okay. It's HP plus. Ow. Oh, it's a good miss. But it's okay, she could have cured herself anyways. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Let's get a free turn here. I want to be in Commando. So, I don't know what buffs we have here. Physical, let's go ahead and shell then. And prepare for HP attack. I should have shelled first, since that's instant turn rate. Oh well. Let's just go ahead and make sure no one gets broken here. Wow, dude, that was nothing. Alright, time to get our free turn and EX. We're gonna kill this guy. Oh, I ran out of free turns. Ah, that's a new mistake. Don't do that. Don't do that. I was wondering why she didn't go again. Too many HP plus spams. She ran out of her EX buff. It's okay. That, my friends, is how you use all her skills. And she gets the final blow. She obviously can be stretched out longer. I spammed the abilities quite a bit with very little HP pluses, but she actually has a really good HP plus. So she was just doing all the legwork. Like, the amount of skills that Hope and Rem had left were insane, especially with Hope extending Rem's free turns. This became a Cosmos pretty much, but hopefully is a good insight on how to play Lightning, because I know that it's a little bit complicated, but when you see it in action, I can't say I did many boo-boos except for that running out of the EX buff at the end. Otherwise, I think I made most of the correct decisions that I wanted to make. So maybe that showed a little bit more insight on the point I was trying to get across earlier. So Lightning is almost done. Hope needs some work. Rem is perfect. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.